Welcome to this meeting of the District Planning Committee on Thursday, the 2nd of October. For the benefit of people in the gallery and anyone watching online, I'll make a few introductions. On my right is Steve Ashdown, the Head of Development Management, who's our planning advisor for today. On his right is Joanne Fisher, who will be making the presentation for the site. On her right is Solomon Ogutu, our legal advisor, and just around the corner from him is Anne Biggs, the Assistant Director for Planning, and on her right is Jamie Brown from West Sussex Highways, who I'd like to welcome and thank for coming today. I am Councillor Phillips, Chairman of the committee. On my left is Councillor Sweatman, my Vice Chairman, and at the tables in front of us are the councillors and members of the committee who will be making decisions today. And in the corners behind us are members of Democratic Services who will be taking notes and working the technology for us. So we'll move on to item 1 on the agenda. To note substitutes with Council Procedure Rule 4, substitutes of meetings of committees, we have none. To receive apologies for absence, apologies from Councillors Avery, Eves and Whitaker. To receive declaration of interest from members in respect of any matter on the agenda. If members have any declarations to make, can they please press the technology in front of them? Councillor Burgreen.
Thank you, Chair. Just for clarity, I was a resident of Bolney until 2020 and Chair of Bolney Parish Council Planning Committee.
Okay, thank you, but that doesn't preclude you from speaking and voting today. That's fine, thank you. To agree by general affirmation the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 21st August 2025, are members happy that I sign those as a true record? Thank you very much. Item 5, to consider any items that the Chairman agrees to take as urgent business. I have none. So we now move on to the substantive part of the agenda. Item 6, DM25 1129, land at Foxhole Farm, Foxhole Lane, Bolney. And I'd invite Jo Fisher to make the presentation for it, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to draw members' attention to the update sheet that was circulated this morning. Just in brief, additional comments have been received by Twynham Parish Council, which are set out in the update sheet, reiterating concerns on road safety. There's just a clarification on para 12.101, about the conservation area. The site does not abut the southwestern corner of the northern part of Bolney Conservation Area. It lies some 10 metres to the southwestern corner of the site. And there's also a proposed additional condition in relation to allotments. Thank you. So turning to the application. So the application is for outline planning permission for up to 200 dwellings, including affordable housing, a community building together with associated access, parking, landscaping, the creation of a vehicular access point from the A272, pedestrian and cycle access, the provision of a countryside open space, play areas, community orchard and allotments. The means of access is to be determined at outline stage, which is before members today, with the appearance, landscaping, layout and scale to be determined in a subsequent reserve matters application. So this is the location plan outlined in red. Beg your pardon. Outlined in red and shown here in my cursor, going round, excluding this area of Foxhole itself, is the application site. The details of the site and surroundings are set out in section 9 of the report. So the site lies to the north of the A272 Cowfold Road, which is shown along here at the bottom, and to the west of the street of Bolney here. The site is outside of the built-up area boundary of Bolney, therefore within the countryside as defined within the district plan. The site comprises of a number of field parcels, as shown on the location plan, which are bordered by hedgerows and hedgerow trees. The site is identified to be allocated the site is identified to be proposed to be allocated in a submission draft district plan under policy DPA 14, which is currently at examination, which I will come on to later. So just looking at some of the constraints, so this is the application site here. The blue hatched areas are the conservation areas of Bolney. The buildings in red here, and there's some others off of the map, are the listed buildings, and the purple line shows the public footpath, which is to the north of the site. There are no conservation areas or listed buildings within the actual application site itself. So this is a part from the submission draft district plan allocation, which shows the proposed site and the allocation. The black line here shows the built-up area boundary of Bolney, and the red dotted line here shows, first of all, the application site, which is in pink, but also the built-up area boundary, which would be extended to incorporate the site. So this planning application does broadly follow this allocation, but it does take out this part of the site, which is in purple currently. So just turning to the illustrative master plan. In terms of the application before members today, details of the proposal are set out in section 11 of the report. This illustrative master plan shows the site, how the site could be developed with the means of access taken here from the A272 at the southern end of the site, which is being determined at this stage. The development would be split into two parcels with housing to the southern and the northern part of the site, and the central area could be a countryside area of open space with a country estate road set to the east to connect the two areas of housing together. The area of open space would have community orchard and seating areas, and to the west of this northern parcel of the site would be community orchards, outdoor education space and children's play areas. Also, there'd be a community building here within the northern part of the site, which has been identified to be occupied by Kangaroos Charity, which is for people with learning disabilities and additional needs. So we've got a number of parameter plans, which I'll be going through. So this is the land use parameter plan showing the proposed development area for housing within the sort of yellow colour. The orange colour is the proposed community building, and all in green would be the green infrastructure for the site, which would not be developed. So the building heights parameter plans show that the development would be up to 2-storey buildings with a 1-storey community building. Nothing else would be going above 2 stories in height. So the Greens infrastructure parameter plan shows the parts of the area to be developed in white, with all the green infrastructure in green. The dark green would be new woodland areas to be planted, and these orange hatched areas are the new community orchard. So this access and movement plan shows the proposed access, which is before members today, the indicative location of the estate country road to connect the housing parcels of the site, and some indicative pedestrian access sites into the existing footpath and onto the street itself as well. So in terms of the site access arrangements, the site would be accessed for vehicles from the A272 Cowfold Road. The vehicle access into the site is to comprise of a priority T-junction arrangement with a Ghost Island right turn lane from the Cowfold Road, and there would be a separate footway provided into the site. There would be the relocation of the existing signalised crossing from its current position to facilitate this Ghost Island within the road in the right turn lane, and a separate crossing point with tactile paving is also proposed. Just for information, the yellow on the plan shows the highway boundary. So as part of the application, there are a number of off-site highway works which are proposed as part of the proposal onto the street, as shown on these plans here. These would include pedestrian crossings with drop curbs, tactile paving, inclusions of full footways, carriageway widening to accommodate on-street parking and bus stop improvements on the street. These works do not form part of the application and would require a separate agreement through the Highway Authority as part of a Section 278 agreement, which is identified as an informative in Appendix A. So we've got some illustrative plans for the community building, showing what it could look like as a single-storey building, and some illustrative floor plans. So the end user has been identified for this being Kangaroos Charity, and policy DPA 14 does require a community building to come forward as part of the development of the site. This building would create a permanent purpose-built hub for kangaroos. So just to show some slides of the site and the surrounding area. So this is the access onto the 272, as you can see. Got the A272 here and how it currently looks. Views of the southern field, that's looking back towards the highway. It's the second parcel of the land. This is Foxhole, the farm itself, and this would be the land leading up to the open space. These are the views of the central field. You can see the listed church here and some of the houses. This would become the open parkland setting, and the views of the northern field with the boundaries of properties which back onto the site from the street. And you've got the public footpath here. This looks towards where the community allotments would be, and that's looking back up to the sort of central area where the community building would be located, and that's looking back towards the properties that back onto the street. And just some views from the public right-of-way. There are some open areas on the public right-of-way where you can see into the site, and that's looking at the houses onto the street, looking up to the highest point of the site and back towards where the community allotments are proposed to be. So the assessment of the application is set out in the committee report, and I'll flag up the main points for members. So the legal framework is set out in section 11 of the report. As members will know, planning legislation holds that the determination of a planning application shall be made in accordance with the development plan unless the material considerations indicate otherwise. In terms of this application, the development plan comprises of the district plan, the site allocations development plan document, and the Bolney neighbourhood plan. The NPPF is an important material consideration as it sets the government policy on how the planning system should operate. The principle of the development is set out from section 12.2 of the report. The starting point is that the site falls outside of the built-up area of Bolney as defined by the adopted district plan. As such, the site is located within the defined countryside. The proposal is for major housing development in the countryside and is not allocated within the current district plan. Therefore, whilst the report details that the proposal complies with many policies in the current district plan, when viewed as a whole, there is a conflict with the development plan. That is not the end point, as you also have to consider other material considerations. As members know, at the present time, the Council cannot demonstrate a 5-year housing land supply, and this means that the tilted balance of para 11D of the NPPF applies, which is set out in full in para 12.16 of the report. The key point for the decision making is that where there are no relevant development planning policies, or there are policies which are most important for determining applications are out of date, which is the position we are in, we should be granting planning permission unless any adverse impacts of doing so would significantly and demonstrably outweigh the benefits when assessed against the policies in this framework taken as a whole, having particular regard to key policies for directing development to sustainable locations, making effective use of land, securing well-designed places and providing affordable homes individually or in combination. The adverse effects have to significantly and demonstrably outweigh the benefits, which is the tilted balance. And this is how the application has been assessed as set out in the report. The site is proposed to be allocated for development under policy DPA 14 in the submission draft district plan. However, due to the current status of the submission district plan, this has limited weight, and so the application has not been assessed against this proposed policy, but assessed against policies in the adopted district plan. In terms of the actual details, these are within the report, and I will go through them briefly. So transport. The Local Highway Authority has no objection to the access point or the associated off-site highway works. The test in both policy DP21 in the district plan and para 116 of the NPPF of development only being prevented or refused on highway grounds if the residual cumulative impacts following mitigation would be severe is a high bar. Your planning officers agree with the comments of the Local Highway Authority that the proposed development would not result in a severe impact on the highway network that would justify a refusal of planning permission. In terms of landscape, it's clear that with any greenfield development, there will be a significant change at the local level from that of an undeveloped landscape to housing development. In order to meet the housing needs of the district, it is highly likely to be necessary to develop greenfield sites. The impacts of the development of this site are not considered to be any greater than that would occur on any other greenfield site in the district developed for housing. The illustrative master plan shows that there would be sufficient landscaping on the boundaries of the site to reduce visual effects. Due to the council not being able to provide a 5-year housing land supply, policy DP12 of the district plan and policy BOLA E2 of the neighbourhood plan attracts reduced weight at the moment. The council's landscape consultant raises no objection to the proposal. Further details of proposed landscaping would come forward at a reserve matters stage, together with the details of the layout and design of the proposed dwellings. In terms of heritage assets, the report details the designated and non-designated heritage assets within the vicinity of the site. The conclusion in relation to the listed buildings, conservation area and the non-designated heritage assets are where there is harm, officers' view is that the harm is classed as less than substantial in the NPPF and is outweighed by the public benefits in this instance, even when you give that harm significant weight. When considered altogether, it is considered that the harms to the identified heritage assets does not provide a strong reason for refusing the development proposed under footnote 7 of para 11 of the NPPF. In terms of design, layout, accessibility and sustainability, and this is dealt with in the report, the illustrative master plan shows the amount of development can be satisfactorily achieved on the site. Full details would be submitted in any subsequent reserve matters application. The proposal would provide 30% affordable housing and be policy compliant. The development would also provide 2% self-build. In terms of residential amenity from the illustrative plans, officers do not consider that there would be significant harm to the existing occupiers, but this would be reassessed again at the subsequent reserve matter stage when the final layout is submitted. In terms of trees, the council's tree officer raises no objection to the proposal. It would again be at the reserve matter stage where a detailed layout would be put forward. In terms of biodiversity, there is no objection from the council's ecology consultant. They are satisfied that there is sufficient ecological information available to support the determination of the application, and the development would be providing in excess of the 10% biodiversity net gain, which is mandatory for this development, which is positive in the planning balance. There is also no objection from the West Sussex Lead Local Flood Authority to the proposed means of drainage for the site. In terms of infrastructure, this is dealt with from section 12.281 of the report. Members will know developers are only required to mitigate the impacts of their development, and all requests for infrastructure contributions are required to meet the community infrastructure levy. The development would meet DP20 of the district plan and the SIL regs. In terms of the overall assessments, the planning balance and conclusions is set out in section 13 of the report. I've gone through the tilted balance, and ultimately it is the officer's view that in this case, the adverse impacts of the proposal do not significantly and demonstrably outweigh the benefits. Weighing against the proposal is the less than substantial harm to the setting of the designated and non-designated heritage assets close to the site, and the change in the character in this part of the district from a greenfield to a housing development. The benefits are set out in the report and are of the proposal providing up to 200 new dwellings with 30% affordable housing, the economic benefits of the development, the social benefits through the provision of a community building for use by kangaroos for people with additional needs, the creation of public open space. The proposal would also result in a net gain in biodiversity. These are very important considerations. In conclusion, all of the harms are not considered to outweigh the benefits of the proposal. So for these reasons, the application is recommended for approval, subject to the conditions, the update sheet and the completion of a satisfactory legal agreement securing affordable housing, infrastructure contributions, the travel plan, the open space and biodiversity net gain. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Jo. Right, so we'll now move on to the public speakers, and members of the public have 3 minutes. I will try and indicate at the end of 2 minutes that you have a minute left, and if you're still speaking after 3 minutes, I will ask you to complete your presentation in 1 sentence. So the first speaker is Councillor Nikki Hanley, the Chair of Bolney Parish Council. And the 3 minutes starts when you start speaking.
The Parish Council acknowledges that the tilted balance in favour of development is engaged, but the NPPF is clear. The presumption is in favour of sustainable development, not any development, anywhere. The Parish Council objects to this planning application. This is not NIMBYism, but because this application does not represent sustainable development and conflicts with the district and neighbourhood plans and the NPPF. The site is not allocated in the district plan. It was proposed for allocation in both the district and neighbourhood plans, but was rejected. The site is outside the built-up area boundary of the village and open countryside. The development proposals will not protect and enhance the intrinsic character and beauty of the countryside. According to the applicant's agricultural land classification report, 44% of the site is grade 2 and 3A, categorised as best and most versatile, which is protected from development by both the district plan and the NPPF. The development would result in unacceptable harm to the historic landscape, to the biodiversity of the site, and to the rural character and appearance of the area. The current village of 259 homes will be overwhelmed by the addition of another 200 homes, which will permanently damage the historic character of the village. The Parish Council has concerns about the safety of the proposed access onto the A272 and the safety of pedestrians in the village because of the lack of pavements. The Mid-Sussex landscape consultant actually only gives qualified support to the proposals. The Conservation Officer is not supportive at all. She concludes that the development will harm the setting of the nearby listed buildings and conservation area. In her opinion, the public benefits of the proposals will not outweigh this harm. The site is not in a sustainable location. Bolney is 6.5 miles from the nearest town, Haywards with a limited bus service and no cycle paths. Residents will therefore be reliant on private cars to access employment and the facilities and services to meet their daily needs. The nearest GP surgery and small supermarket are in Cowfold, 3 miles away, but there is no bus service to Cowfold and the application is not proposing one. Instead, the applicant has suggested residents can cycle to Cowfold. According to the latest Department for Transport data, 19,161 vehicles a day use the 272 between Bolney and Cowfold. Would you put your sick relative on a bike and cycle along such a busy road with no cycle path to get to a doctor's appointment? The development is not sustainable, and the infrastructure proposed will not meet the needs of the current or future residents of Bolney. A building for a charity is laudable, but it won't improve the sustainability of the village. The applicant has previously told the Parish Council that if successful today, it will not build this development, but will sell the site to another developer. The applicant isn't concerned that this application fails to represent sustainable development. It is only concerned about the profits from the sale of the site. And the Parish Council urges you to refuse this speculative planning application.
Thank you. Right, the next speaker, and I must apologise, I should have asked you beforehand how you pronounce your Christian name.
Eva.
Thank you. If you would like to, so the 3 minutes will start when you start speaking.
Firstly, I can empathise with the position the committee are in today. I advise public bodies on legal decision-making, and I also hold an official role that exposes me and my decisions to public scrutiny. So I appreciate the challenges caused by the new district plan leaving you in a tilted balance limbo. However, the presumption in favour of sustainability doesn't make this decision a done deal. It remains a matter of your overall planning judgment. And I note the officer said the significant public benefits are listed in the final report as 200 new homes, 30% affordable housing, the community building, public open space, and the general economic benefits of development. But the significance of each of these benefits can be reasonably rebutted or questioned. Firstly, 200 houses is good news, but 200 houses in the wrong place just isn't. The lack of infrastructure for this site can't easily be mitigated away. Food accessibility is limited to a tiny country garage. Bus services are wholly inadequate. Key workers cannot cycle or walk to train stations. I note that Mr. Bates has said that he enjoys cycling and the A272, and perhaps he is a brave cyclist, but none of the cycle clubs or residents can use the A272 on their routes. As a resident, I can assure you that this site is unquestionably car dependent, and I believe that significant weight should be given to the lack of transport links and the lack of realistic mitigations that can be guaranteed. Secondly, the application promises 30% affordable housing, but there is no substance or promise or supporting evidence that would indicate how this is going to be delivered. It's just a high-level aspiration, and past developments in similar areas with such poor infrastructure, Slough Manor and Sayers Common, have seen developers present viability reports to reduce the affordable housing or the Section 106 contribution. Viability arguments are a real risk to the delivery of affordable housing on this site, so cautious weight at this stage should really be placed on affordable housing promises.
1 minute left.
The new community, Kangaroos, is a lovely idea, but it doesn't need to be placed on this site, and it doesn't offer wider community benefits. It serves very specific needs. A suburban public open space landlocked inside a housing estate isn't a significant benefit that could possibly outweigh the irrevocable change to the character of an ancient rural Sussex village that's next to an AONB and has views over a national park. I also suggest that the economic benefits of development are generic and are not unique to this particular site. In contrast to these benefits, the Parish Council has provided extensive evidence-based objections, and there's been hundreds of reasonable and focused objections from residents, and these must be given proper weight. The planning officer thinks this site can be justified, but ultimately it's the committee's decision. The temptation to go with a keen developer and get some housing numbers on the stocks must be strong, I understand, but please don't let an immediate housing challenge become a long-term problem in this location. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, the next speaker is Ross Perriam. Say the 3 minutes starts when you start speaking.
Chair, councillors, thank you for allowing me to speak today. I'm here to object to the proposed development. This location is wholly unsuitable for large-scale new housing, and I urge you to refuse permission on both planning, policy and practical grounds. First, this site conflicts with the Mid-Sussex District Plan. Bolney is identified as a village where only limited sustainable growth can take place. The scheme of 200 new houses in an existing settlement of 400 exceeds sustainable growth thresholds. If a 25% increase in housing is seen as disproportionate, an increase of closer to 50% is overwhelming and unsustainable. The result will put significant strain on already stretched services such as water supply, local school places, GPs and transport networks, which are not equipped to absorb hundreds of new residents. No evidence has been given that these shortfalls can realistically be resolved, and this is further compounded by the well-documented track record of the developer failing to meet their safety and community responsibilities. Second, national planning policy framework makes clear that developments should reduce reliance on the private car. Yet this site is remote from main bus and rail access. Residents would almost inevitably be car dependent, funneling yet more traffic onto the already overburdened A272, a road which local cycle clubs actively avoid due to the danger it poses. Anyone who uses this road knows there are routinely congested it is routinely congested and prone to frequent accidents. Allowing a development here would worsen both congestion and air quality. Third, the landscape and environmental impact must not be ignored. Foxhole Farm lies in open countryside outside the built-up area boundary. It forms part of Bolney's rural setting, buffering the high-wheeled national landscape nearby. Replacing farmland with housing would cause permanent loss of countryside character. On climate and environmental policy, Mid Sussex has pledged to reduce carbon emissions and protect biodiversity. Yet this development would generate significant construction emissions, increase long-term car dependency, and fragment wildlife habitats. It contradicts not only local policy,
1 minute left,
but also national commitments to net zero and nature recovery. Lastly, the question of housing need must be considered. The district plan already allocates more than sufficient land to meet its housing targets up to 2038. Approving yet another large greenfield development here is unnecessary and premature, particularly when brownfield opportunities remain underused. In conclusion, this proposal conflicts with district and national planning policy, undermines sustainability goals, adds to congestion, erodes valued countryside, and delivers housing in the wrong place. It represents speculative sprawl, not planned growth. Once this biodiverse land is gone, it's gone. Once the village doubles in size, it doesn't shrink back. Once hundreds of cars are introduced to our small village, the pollution stays. Once the community fabric frays, it's hard to stitch together again. You have the opportunity to build with care and with integrity, or you can choose to vote against the local people, national policy, and destroy this historic West Sussex village and its community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, the last speaker against is Annie Hurst, who I believe is from Twynham Parish Council. Right, again, the 3 minutes starts when you start speaking.
Thank you very much. As a Twynham resident, I am extremely concerned about road safety on the A272 with the proposed access to the Foxhole Farm site opposite the very busy petrol station. The A272 is one of only a handful of east-west routes in the county and is very heavily used. It is already extremely difficult for local residents to turn right out of Bolney Chapel Road onto the A272, or indeed to cross it onto Foxhole Lane. With the petrol station on the south side, with cars queuing to get onto the forecourt, and an industrial estate to the rear, it would seem highly irresponsible to permit the access at the proposed point. Although highways are happy with the proposed access, they do not live here or have to negotiate this junction. Without the provision of a roundabout or traffic lights, this will be extremely dangerous. For those who have drives onto the A272 in close proximity to the proposed access, this is a loss of amenity. The A23 northbound exit with the A272 is a very poorly laid out junction. This results in local lanes being used as rat runs and increases the amount of traffic in Bolney Chapel Road. This situation is only going to get worse with the proposed 2,500 houses in Sayers Common. It will have a greater impact on the junction of Bolney Chapel Road and the A272. As Mid Sussex District Council is minded to recommend various substantial housing developments for approval, I would urge the council to arrange for the developers to build a multi-storey car park at the Princess Royal Hospital in Haywards Heath, where the parking is already impossible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, we now move on to the speakers in favour. And the first speaker is, I believe, Meryl Baker of Waits. Right, again, 3 minutes starts when you start speaking.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Meryl Baker and I'm a director at Waits. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Today, I am here to not only support your officers with their recommendation and with the delivery of much-needed new homes which form part of your draft plan, but I'm also here to support the ambitions of a fantastic local charity that do amazing work with local children, teenagers and adults with learning disabilities. As a family-owned business now in the 4th generation, legacy and collaboration is central to our Waits values. We are delighted to have partnered with Kangaroos to bring forward a new multi-purpose built hub for their members and help dress the district with their SEN facility needs. Where approved, this would mean Kangaroos would gain a new permanent home and the opportunity to serve the over 80 additional families on their waiting list. Jane Lacey, one of the trustees, shall talk a bit more about this in a minute. The scheme has been thoroughly tested and importantly comes to you with no statutory objections. Not only do the proposals provide a new home for the important local charity, but I'm pleased to outline some of the additional benefits. These include 200 net zero carbon ready homes, of which 60 would be affordable, helping to address the needs of your 1,932 households currently on your housing register. 55% of this site would remain green, providing new walking routes, biodiversity zones, a green gym and community orchards. Contributions of over £2.8 million will be provided through the 106 for local facilities, education and health. And as a responsible developer, we've engaged directly with national utilities, including Southern Water,
1 minute left.
South East Water and UK Power Networks. This is obviously to ensure this scheme is deliverable. Where upgrades are required, these will be facilitated to the benefit of the community and phased in line with delivery. Finally, transport improvements will be brought forward and our expert James shall highlight these again in a minute. The team and both I feel very proud of the collaborative work that's gone into this proposal, including the partnership with Kangaroos, and this has been commended by a number of local charities. It has been a true team effort between the council, key stakeholders and Waits, and I hope you find it in yourselves to support your officers, those in need of a new home, and also a fantastic charity that is an important role in supporting your community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, the next speaker is James Bevis, who's the transport consultant. And 3 minutes to start when you start.
Good afternoon. I'm James Bevis from iTransport. We have led the transport work, including for the local plan promotion and the work for this planning application. We engaged with West Sussex County Council early on to ensure our work was undertaken using an agreed approach and the parameters. We've also been involved with the consultation with the Parish Council and have listened to the ideas and issues raised by the local community through the public consultation process. This has all informed our assessment of transport matters. A range of access options have been considered. Alternative locations are not possible due to junction spacing and the need to provide adequate visibility. A mini roundabout is ruled out by design guidance. A larger roundabout would also not comply with guidance. There will not be enough traffic going into and out of the site to provide an appropriate balance of flows for it to self-regulate. The proposed right-hand lane is consistent with guidance and will be safe and suitable. It has been modelled carefully and will have ample capacity. Right-turning vehicles will not obstruct through movements. The access arrangements have been subject to a detailed design audit and an independent road safety audit, as well as the County Council's review. Traffic impacts were assessed previously and found acceptable by the Council's transport work for the local plan. We have reassessed impacts using parameters based on empirical data, independent traffic surveys, as well as our local knowledge. The cumulative traffic impacts of the proposal, including the community building, have been scrutinised by National Highways and the County Council. The proposal will not noticeably impact the operation of the local highway network. The site is in a suitably sustainable location as confirmed by the Council's most recent local plan evidence base. This is also shown by our work and is agreed by the County Council and your officers. I also note the letter of support from the local bus operator. Sustainable transport will be prioritised appropriately by providing connections to Foxhole Lane, the 272, public rights of way and the street, surfacing improvements on the A272, a scheme of pedestrian improvements to the street, new bus stops on London Road, a £125,000 contribution to Metrobus to enable the improved frequency and duration of bus services, a financial contribution of £50,000 towards a County Council scheme of safety improvements along the A272, 2 car club vehicles and free membership for residents, electric vehicle charging for all homes, a travel plan in accordance with the County Council's guidance. Our work has been reviewed by the County Council as well as by National Highways and their consultants. All confirm that the proposal is acceptable in transport terms as set out in the Comprehensive Committee report. You therefore do not need to take my word for it. You can rely on the advice from independent experts as well as the view of your own officers. I trust that helps. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the final speaker in support is Jane Lacey from the Kangaroo Charity. And again, 3 minutes will start when you start speaking.
Good afternoon. My name is Jane Lacey and I've been supporting Kangaroos for around 11 years as a trustee, inspired by the life-changing difference Kangaroos services have made to my daughter. Kangaroos was established in 1994 by parents of children with disabilities who wanted them to enjoy the same sort of activities that others do. The charity has evolved from a Saturday club and play scheme in Haywards Heath for a handful of children to one that now supports nearly 400 local families with day trips, residentials, specialist groups for members of all ages and support for families. In Mid-Sussex, Kangaroos is the only service provider offering regular tailored care and fun to people with learning disabilities. Our activities are designed to develop self-esteem, social skills and independence, even for those with the most complex needs. My daughter Annie has been part of Kangaroos since she was 6, and it's made a huge difference to her. Now 25, Kangaroos is her entire social life. She's tried new things, she's become more independent and confident, and she feels included and valued. Like any other young adult, she leaves the house to meet her friends, and that's exactly what we as a family want for her. Last year, Kangaroos ran nearly 500 individual sessions, which represented more than 1,500 hours of activity and almost 16,000 person hours of fun and support, but we want to do more. After more than 30 years with a growing wait list of over 90 local families, we realise our current outdated facilities are simply not enough. We need a permanent home and a larger purpose-built hub to effectively meet the significant and growing demand for SEND provision in Mid-Sussex. After a long search, we believe this site is ideal. It's just 15 minutes from our current site and able to deliver all the essential specialist facilities we need, as well as offering us a range of new opportunities. We've been delighted to partner positively with Waits, collaborating on a design that reflects the values of both organisations and our own community's aspirations. Plans include multi-use activity rooms, a learning kitchen, sensory facilities and the potential for a pop-up shop and cafe, as well as making the most of the outdoor space with a purpose-built play area and the development of allotments, fostering stronger links to the local community. Securing a new and permanent home for Kangaroos is a critical step in ensuring that more local children, teenagers and adults with learning disabilities can lead full and included lives. This application represents more than just a building. It's a chance to invest in the well-being and future of our most vulnerable community members. I urge you to approve this application and help Kangaroos continue its incredible work. Our clubs are not just services, they're communities of care, hope and possibility. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much. Right, our final speaker is Councillor Jim Knight, one of the ward members. Councillor Knight is not restricted in time, although I know he will be as concise as possible.
Thank you, Chairman, and good afternoon, members. And yes, Chairman, I will try and be succinct as possible. Thank you. And thanks to the speakers who've objected against it, who've spoken very adequately there. Thank you very much. First, I'd like to address the point of tilted balance. I'm really worried about this. Effectively, that means that any application coming forward should be approved. Unless we address this, we could end up seeing the whole of Mid-Sussex concreted over. It's a serious situation. I believe there are three main considerations in determining this application, members. These being overdevelopment, out of character for the area, and some highways matters. And firstly, highways. I know West Sussex have deemed the application acceptable, but anyone who is trying to access the A272 from that area, from that location, even at non-rush hour, is extremely difficult and dangerous at times. This development put a massive strain on this road at this locality. And as you know, public transport to this village is sparse, to say the least. Overdevelopment. This development, in a single stroke, will virtually double the size of this small village. This surely can't be right. Anyone who lives in a small village, like I do, will know a development proposed like this will destroy that village way of life. The strain on the infrastructure, or lack of, will have a severe impact on local residents. No extra doctors, no more dentists, schools. We also have a situation where the water supply, as you know, is at dangerously low levels. So this will be put further strain on, excuse me, my phone's gone, I'll let you put it on silent. I beg your pardon, Chairman. Well, I beg your pardon, Chairman.
No problem.
Where did I get to? Yes, I was talking about water, and there's a further strain on this vital resource. Out of character, for anyone who knows this area, walk this lovely lane or visit Bolney's beautiful vineyard, which is just next door. It has a wonderful idyllic charm. At present, the housing is sparse down this lane, indeed detached housing. A development this size and the type of housing is completely out of character for this area. This has been designated agriculture along with fields in close proximity. So yes, landscape and out of AONB impact. This is part of the medieval field system, recognising the High Weald Management Plan for its historic and ecological significance. The development would severely compromise policy DP6, the High Weald AONB, policy Bolney E2, Bolney Neighbourhood Plan, the district plan, and objectives to concern the landscape setting, the AONB, traditional field patterns and biodiversity. I know the residents of Bolney hold this open area very dear, and I ask members please to consider my planning arguments, protect this land for now, our children and our future generations. Thank you, members.
Thank you, Councillor. Right, Joe, is there anything you'd like to come back on from the speakers?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I'd just like to clarify that one of the speakers said the site is not allocated in the district plan. The site is proposed to be allocated in the submission draft plan under policy DPA 14, which is supported by significant evidence base. This plan remains at examination as set out in the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jamie, is there anything you wanted to come back on at this stage from the speakers? Okay, thanks very much. Right, now we'll open the floor to councillors, but before I do, I did actually give County Highways notice of a question in paras 6, 39 and 40. There was some dispute about accident numbers, and Jamie has agreed to give us some sort of explanation about their records of what's gone on that road.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I won't go through every single one, but I've been in contact with Road Safety Group, and we've looked at the accident records from basically March this year back to March 2015, and we've looked at the contributory factors, and none of the contributory factors for any accidents in and around the point of access and the junctions are related to the design of the road. So we're still satisfied that the proposals meet paragraph 116 from that perspective.
Thank you, Jamie. Right, I'll open the floor to councillors. Councillor Prescott.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm struggling with this proposal. I think it's very cynical of Waits to come here and promote Kangaroos as a partner. Let's be very clear, Waits will sell this site at the first opportunity. They're not investing in the area. Any consultation with utilities and others is only done to protect their shareholder value. They're not interested in Bolney. They're only interested in their own shareholder return. This site will be sold and Waits will walk away. The delivery developer is not in this room. He's not going to be here. He's not going to hear these emotional arguments. And he will, in buying this site, he'll have to cut costs to make this site work. So quality is my concern for the final delivered project. Moving on to the A272, it's a nightmare and I use it very frequently. I live in an adjacent village. This morning, going to Henfield, it took me 8 minutes. 8 minutes to cross the 272 from Spronkets Lane, which is the next lane along from Foxhole Lane in towards Twynham. And it scares, I almost close my eyes when I go across. Now this was at 9 o'clock this morning and I still sat there for 8 minutes. So any right turn, and if I do have to do a right turn towards Cowfold, it really is scary, and any right turn, I can't see any provision for any right turns coming out of this development going towards Cowfold. And as we've already heard, Cowfold is where the nearest shop is. You know, it's only 3.5 miles away, but you're not going to do it on a bike. You need a car. And it is, you know, we can listen to the county say that there are no major issues around safety, but you don't live here. You don't use this road as we do, as neighbours and near neighbours. And I don't believe any amount of traffic modelling or issues actually reflect the challenges that local residents face. There's also, there are no sustainable ways to get in and out, and any cash contribution, and yes, it's wonderful to hear of 50,000 here and 30,000 there and contributions to buses, it doesn't make one jot of difference. It is really difficult to move around in our rural villages. And so I'm really struggling with this at the moment, and it is a very hard decision, notwithstanding the tilted balance, and I understand the responsibility on us, but this is an erosion of the countryside, and I believe it overwhelms the existing village. And I'm interested in other councillors' comments, because at the moment I'm struggling to support this. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Prescott. Councillor Peacock.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. What can we say? The unenviable position of having an out-of-date district plan, a stalled district plan update, and not being able to demonstrate a 5-year land supply. That's the first thing. I can also understand the frustrations of the residents and local people. Without going through it, I've been in a similar situation many years ago when there wasn't a district plan. Looking at the situation, we have to say that the site has been put forward and is a selected site in the current plan update. It went through a rigorous process, whether we like it or not, to be selected out of, I can't remember how many hundreds of sites, but it did go through that process, and it got through stage 3 and it was put forward through a fair process, detailed process. In the last few weeks, this is the third similar application we've had. At the end of August, there was a site which was in Haywards Heath, which was thrown out, I believe, at stage 3. It didn't quite meet the selection criteria to go in the district plan, but it was in tilted balance put forward. No two applications are similar. I understand that. And then earlier in the year, in the summer, there was the application same as this that was in Turner's Hill. So we also need to look at consistency in a background of our previous decisions, but the merits of each application. When we then look at where we are, the district plan isn't paused or cancelled because there are too many sites. It's I think without stepping too far, and I'm sure the officers and the legal officer will stop me if I go too far, it's down to the fact there are not enough applications or sites being put forward, I think. So even if this was rejected and then the district plan was rejected and had to be updated, it's highly likely, because of the process we've been through, at a later date this site would be put forward with additional sites. That's the reality. I'm happy to be corrected by officers and our legal advisor, but that's my understanding. In terms of traffic, it's easy to bash West Sussex, and I've done it many times myself. Coming from East Grinstead, We have a road, the A22, which is far busier than Bolney. I'm sorry, residents, it's far busier. And highways have consistently said we have to get on with it. There's been plans to upgrade it over the years and it was ignored. And now we're down to, not so much at the moment, infrastructure improvements in terms of car capacity, it's other methods within East Grinstead. So I understand where we are, but elsewhere in the district, highways is an issue and we have to work around that. And legally, we have to go with what traffic highways say. May not like that, but it's a fact. So when I look at it, I take on board the comments from the speakers, the residents, the many submissions, and including what Councillor Prescott says. But myself, I really cannot see, it's a tilted balance. If it had been thrown out at stage 2A or 2B of the process, I understand, but the fact it's been put forward as a site in a stalled district plan, not thrown out, I think I'm compelled to recommend proposed approval. That's notwithstanding, obviously, the Kangaroos community building, and on the other side, all the negative aspects of this type of development. But I've been there myself many years ago. I'm not trying to supplicate you with that, it's a fact. But I don't see how else we can go forward, personally.
Thank you. Anne Beggs, you wish to make some comment?
Yes, I was just going to confirm that Councillor Peacock's understanding is correct, that the draft district plan remains at examination. This was a site proposed for allocation within that. And as he says, that it was selected on the basis of the evidence and the site selection methodology that supported that allocation, and that was discussed through a cross-party working group by this council. So that is the plan that the council supports, and supporting this application is therefore supporting the plan that does remain at examination. And your comments about where we are in terms of the tilted balance also correct in that the direction of travel from the government and from the inspectorate is that when you're in tilted balance, every house counts, and that's what we're seeing through the decisions recently. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bates.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'm following really the lines of Councillor Peacock spoken just now, but I think the site is okay. The great win here is the inclusion of the Kangaroos facility. The big downside of this, and I totally disagree with the highways, is the access, not only to the site, but also in particular the street, which when I visited the site, took me ages to turn off the A272 into the street. So it must be a terrible experience for all the local residents day in, day out. And we're just compounding this situation, not only on the street, but on the new development and the next streets, and many, many roads along the A272 have the same problem. And I mean, cycling did get a mention just now, but it is a real problem on a bike trying to cross north-south off the lanes from one place to another. But the irony of it is I do cycle on the A272 because it's a better road, you don't get potholes. And for what people were saying, it is part of the Mid-Sussex Triathlon route, so it is used by cyclists. So, you know, really, what do we do about the issue of applications after applications not dealing with the highways issues? And you can't really liken it to the recent application we approved at Crawley Down by the same developer. The road is not so intense there as it is here. And in fact, we did implore upon the developer to try and sort out a different access into the site because we didn't want it to go through an existing housing estate, which it was inadequate. So, you know, I come here with mixed views I'm supporting the housing, I'm supporting the kangaroos, and I'm thinking, how can we resolve the issue of the highways? And so that's me.
Thank you. Well, as we all know, I mean, we're all frustrated, I think, about the fact that county highways are unable to reject a scheme unless the impact is the additional impact is very severe. And in terms of road capacity, we have a road in our village, main road, where the capacity is at 125% of the ideal capacity. And I think that's during peak times, and that's common in many of the roads, unfortunately, in our area. Did you want to comment on that at all, Jamie?
I would just add that obviously it's been the site access has been for a stage 1 road safety audit. There's been significant negotiation with our engineers in regard to the right turn lane. The right turn lane has been increased in width. That's been looked at. We're obviously seeking £50,000 from a road safety group scheme, which is looking to improve the A272. I can't go into the actual details at the moment because they're not in the public, but as I understand it, there are a number of improvements proposed from Buck Barn through the A272 past the site. So obviously acknowledge the concerns raised, but we've done as much as we can in terms of securing mitigation for this scheme, and that is why we feel it is in line with paragraph 116 of the MPPF.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Jackson.
Right, thank you, Chairman. I visited the site on Monday and viewed it from the hilltop down on both sides, on the low-lying areas and also the area which is deemed to be used for public open space. It's certainly a fair way away from the heritage sites. Over my 6 years on the District Planning Committee, I've had a number of applications on fields, green fields, near to small village communities, which will obviously have an effect on the quaintness of little villages. But on the other hand, we do need to find sites where we need to build our housing numbers, and they've got to go somewhere. And this particular site, as been mentioned earlier, is in the draft district plan review, and although that's on hold at the moment, but it was considered as being an appropriate site for building under the new plan. Certainly when I was there, one of the arguments is it is valuable agricultural land, but when I was there on the site, there were some horses, and it was obvious that some of the site had been used for horse grazing, so not producing food. So, but I am conflicted because I come from Hurstbeer Point, and we've got a large development proposed in the district plan, future district plan, in Sayers Common and Albourne, and those are obviously villages which will be affected by a large development. But one of the possibilities of having a very large development is you do get the infrastructure, the doctor's surgeries, the primary schools, possibly a secondary school, parades of shops and the like. So I am conflicted in some ways, but I think in terms of the fact that we haven't got a 5-year land supply, if we turn this down, it could well go to appeal, and the presumption to build is in the NPPF. And because we've actually accepted this as a suitable site for development in the new draft district plan, it does actually weight towards this being a site which will be likely to be approved on appeal. So it's problematic, but obviously a decision's got to be made.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Do any other councillors wish to speak?
Yeah,
Councillor Sweatman.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I too visited the site on Monday, and I do feel sorry for the residents because it's a lovely, tranquil little village, and there's just a beautiful outlook across the fields, and it's lovely. But however, we have to look at sites as we currently cannot demonstrate a 5-year housing land supply. And I think you can blame the government for this, for putting these housing numbers on us, that we've got to find sites to accommodate. This particular site is in the draft submission district plan which is at examination at the moment. And, you know, that obviously carries minimal weight at the moment, as does it in our current district plan. This particular site has gone through a strict process of looking at whether this site was suitable. It is obviously that's what's in the plan, so we have to look at I'm a bit lost for words, Chairman, at the moment, but
take your time.
Yeah. Sorry, I'll leave it there because yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bergreen.
Thank you, Chairman. I certainly have several observations about this, apart from the size, but on the other hand, it's the site that has been included in our emerging district plan, and voting against it could lead to other even worse scenarios, as has been alluded to. So for that reason, I'm very reluctantly in agreement with this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillors wish to speak? Can I have a proposer for the recommendation, please?
No, recommend.
Councillor Sweatman. Councillor Peacock, second. Right, in that case, can we move to the vote, please? Right, the vote is now closed. 9 votes in favour, none against and no abstentions. Therefore, I will read the recommendation on page 16, paras 3.1 and 3.2. Try and get the right glasses on. It's recommended that planning permission is granted subject to the conditions issued in Appendix A and the completion of a Section 106 legal agreement to secure the required infrastructure, contributions, travel plan, open space, the biodiversity net gain requirements and the necessary affordable housing. Recommendation B, if a satisfactory planning obligation has not been completed by the 2nd of January 2026, it's recommended that the application be refused at the discretion of the Assistant Director of Planning and Sustainable Economy for the following reasons. The proposal fails to provide the required affordable housing, the infrastructure contributions and the biodiversity net gain requirements. The application therefore conflicts with policies DP20, DP31 and DP38 of the Mid-Sussex District Plan and the Mid-Sussex Supplementary Planning Documents, Affordable Housing and Development in Infrastructure and Contributions. Right, there are no items recommended for refusal. So we move on to item 7. Questions pursuant to Council Procedure Rule 10.2, due notice of which has been given. I have none. So I'd like to thank members of the public, the officers and councillors for their attendance this afternoon and declare the meeting closed at 3:08. Can members please remain seated until the live stream is off? Stream is now ended. Right, thank you very much.